As Rajiv Desai stood at the grand entrance of Elm Ridge Golf Club, the doorman, Marcus, looked him up and down. Brown skin, Indian accent, expensive yet foreign-looking clothes. When Rajiv said, "I'm here for the board meeting," Marcus chuckled. "Sir, the board of this club is entirely white. I mean, all local Americans." When Rajiv showed his invitation letter, Marcus insisted, "This could be fake. I'll need to verify it," and refused to let him in. Luckily, Sarah Mitchell, a journalist from the Connecticut Journal, happened to be there and recorded every moment. 15 minutes later, the club president rushed outside in a panic, shouting, "You just refused entry to our new chairman." That single moment ignited the biggest scandal in the club's 132-year history, and Marcus was fired on the spot. Before the story starts, drop a comment. Which city are you watching from? And if you stand for justice and equality, share this story and subscribe to our channel. Together, we can make our voices stronger. The September afternoon sun cast long shadows across the perfectly manicured grounds of Elm Ridge Golf Club in Greenwich, Connecticut. The club's colonial-style mansion stood as a monument to old money and older traditions. White columns, brick facade, and an air of exclusivity that had remained unchanged for 132 years. Rajiv Desai pulled his Tesla into the circular driveway, taking a moment to appreciate the irony of what was about to happen. At 45, he'd spent the last 25 years building cyber-shield technologies from a garage startup into a $2.8 billion cybersecurity empire. He'd navigated boardrooms, negotiated with Fortune 500 companies, and revolutionized data protection for major corporations. But none of that compared to the significance of today. 3 weeks ago, Elm Ridge Golf Club had elected him to their board of directors, not just as a member, but as chairman. The first person of color to serve on the board in the club's entire history. It had been a contentious vote, with several older members threatening to resign, but the club's younger generation had finally pushed for change. Today's meeting would officially transition leadership, with Rajiv assuming the chairman role. He stepped out of his car wearing a tailored navy blazer, pressed khakis, and Italian leather loafers, the uniform of country club culture. His salt and pepper hair was neatly trimmed, and he carried a leather portfolio containing the meeting agenda and transition documents. At the entrance, a stocky white man in his late 50s stood guard behind a mahogany podium. His name tag read, Marcus Webb, Security. Marcus's eyes fixed on Rajiv as he approached, and Rajiv saw the familiar assessment happening. The quick calculation based on skin color and features, the automatic assumption that didn't match reality. "Good afternoon," Rajiv said pleasantly. "I'm here for the board meeting at 2 o'clock. Marcus's expression shifted from neutral professionalism to skeptical scrutiny. "Sir, this is a private club. Only members and their invited guests are permitted on the premises." "I understand," Rajiv replied patiently. "I'm on the board of directors." "Rajiv Desai, the meeting is scheduled for." "The board meeting," Marcus interrupted, a slight smirk playing at his lips. "Sir, I've been working here for 15 years. I know all our board members. You're not one of them." Rajiv felt the familiar tightness in his chest, the exhausting reality of constantly having to prove he belonged in spaces where his presence was automatically questioned. "I was recently elected. 3 weeks ago, actually. Today is my first official board meeting as chairman." Marcus's smirk widened into something approaching amusement. "Chairman? Sir, our board is, well, let me put it this way. The board members are all established members of this community, longtime residents, people who've been part of this club for decades." The implication was clear without being explicit. People who looked like Marcus, not people who looked like Rajiv. "I have my invitation letter," Rajiv said, reaching into his portfolio. "It specifies the meeting time, and anyone can forge a letter," Marcus said dismissively. "I'm going to need to verify this with the club manager before I can let you in. Please wait here." He picked up the phone on his podium, but instead of dialing, he simply held it, watching Rajiv with undisguised suspicion. It was a power play, a deliberate stalling tactic designed to make Rajiv uncomfortable enough to leave. What neither of them noticed was the woman sitting in her car 30 feet away, camera raised and already recording. Sarah Mitchell was a reporter for the Connecticut Journal, and she'd come to Elm Ridge today following a tip about potential protests regarding the club's historically exclusionary membership policies. She'd been photographing the entrance, waiting to see if anything newsworthy developed, when she'd witnessed Rajiv's arrival and the subsequent confrontation. Her camera captured everything: the dismissive body language, the power dynamics, the obvious discrimination playing out in real time. "Sir," Marcus said after a theatrical pause, "I've been instructed that without proper verification, I cannot admit you to the club. Perhaps you could provide additional identification? A driver's license, perhaps? And documentation of your employment." "My employment," Rajiv repeated carefully. "What does my employment have to do with attending a board meeting?" "Well, our board members are typically business owners, executives, established professionals. I need to verify that you're actually in a position where board membership would be appropriate." Sarah's camera zoomed in, capturing the exchange with crystal clarity. She recognized what she was witnessing: the polite version of discrimination, dressed up in procedural language, but unmistakably based on Rajiv's appearance and ethnicity. "I'm the CEO of CyberShield Technologies," Rajiv said, his voice remaining level despite the insult. "We're a Fortune 1000 company. I've provided cybersecurity for 3 of the companies whose CEOs sit on this board with me. Now, I've shown you my invitation. I've identified myself. What exactly do you need to verify?" Marcus set down the phone without having dialed anyone. "Sir, I'm just doing my job. We have very strict protocols about who enters this facility. The club has a certain reputation to maintain. We can't just let anyone walk in claiming to be a board member." "Anyone?" Rajiv repeated quietly. "Is that what I am? Anyone?" "I didn't mean it like that," Marcus backtracked, but his face showed he'd meant exactly that. "I just mean we have standards. This is Elm Ridge Golf Club, not some public facility. Members expect a certain level of exclusivity." Sarah was out of her car now, approaching slowly while keeping her camera trained on the scene. Neither man had noticed her yet. "Marcus," Rajiv said, checking his watch, "the meeting starts in 10 minutes. I'm the incoming chairman. I need to be inside for the transition ceremony. What exactly will it take for you to verify my identity and let me enter?" "Well, if you could have someone from inside vouch for you. One of the actual board members could come out and confirm." "So you want me to have a board member come vouch for my presence at a board meeting where I'm being installed as chairman?" Rajiv's patience was finally wearing thin. "Do you see the circular logic there?" Marcus crossed his arms. "Sir, I'm not trying to be difficult, but this club has traditions, standards, a certain way of doing things. And frankly, you showing up here claiming to be the new chairman, it just doesn't add up. No offense, but you don't exactly look like someone who'd be on our board." "And what exactly does a board member look like?" Rajiv asked, knowing the answer but wanting Marcus to say it explicitly. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "You know what I mean. This is Connecticut. This is Elm Ridge. We have a certain demographic in our membership." Sarah's camera captured that statement perfectly. She'd been a journalist long enough to recognize a career-ending quote when she heard one. "Excuse me, gentlemen." Sarah's voice cut through the tension. Both men turned to see her approaching, camera still recording. "I'm Sarah Mitchell from the Connecticut Journal. I've been documenting this interaction for the past several minutes. Mr. Webb, did you just admit to denying entry based on demographic concerns?" Marcus's face went from annoyed superiority to panic in an instant. "I didn't. That's not. You can't record private property without. The entrance is visible from a public road, and this is clearly a newsworthy interaction," Sarah replied calmly. "Sir," she turned to Rajiv, "would you care to comment on what's happening here?" Before Rajiv could respond, the club's front doors burst open. A silver-haired man in his 60s emerged, moving with the urgency of someone responding to a crisis. His face was flushed, and he clutched a cell phone. "Rajiv. My God, Rajiv, I am so sorry." William Hartford, the outgoing board chairman, rushed down the steps. "I just got a call from my daughter. She follows the Connecticut Journal's social media, and they just posted a live update about a confrontation at our entrance. She said. He stopped abruptly, taking in the scene. Rajiv standing outside. Marcus looking panicked. Sarah with her camera. The pieces fell into place with devastating clarity. Marcus, William said slowly, his voice dropping to a dangerous quiet. Please tell me you didn't just refuse entry to our new board chairman. Marcus's mouth opened and closed wordlessly. I was following protocol, Mr. Hartford. He didn't look like, I didn't recognize him as. You didn't recognize him because you've never seen him before, William said, his voice hardening with each word. Because he was just elected 3 weeks ago. Because today is his first official meeting. Because he's the first person of color we've ever elected to the board in our 132-year history. And apparently you decided that was reason enough to keep him standing outside like a criminal. Other board members had started emerging from the building now, drawn by the commotion. They stood in a semicircle, witnessing Marcus's humiliation. Mr. Hartford, I swear I was just trying to verify, Marcus stammered. Verify what? William demanded. He had an invitation letter. He identified himself by name. What exactly needed verification? Or was the real issue that he didn't match your narrow idea of what our board members should look like? Sarah's camera captured every moment. The video was already live on the Connecticut Journal's website, view count climbing rapidly as the story gained traction. This is exactly what I warned the board about, William continued, addressing everyone now. This is why we needed to change. Because our culture of exclusivity has been code for exclusion based on race, religion, and ethnicity. Because people like Marcus have been empowered to act as gatekeepers enforcing unwritten rules about who belongs here. He turned back to Marcus, his voice final. You're fired. Effective immediately. Collect your belongings and leave the premises. Mr. Hartford, please. Marcus's composure cracked completely. I've worked here 15 years. I have a family. I was just doing what I thought was right. You were discriminating. Rajiv spoke for the first time since William's arrival. His voice was calm, but carried undeniable authority. You made assumptions about my qualifications and my right to be here based purely on my appearance and ethnicity. You used verification and protocol as excuses to exclude me from a space where I not only belonged, but was actually in charge. He looked at William. I appreciate your defense, but I need you to understand something. This isn't about Marcus being uniquely prejudiced. This is about a culture that allowed him to feel comfortable making those assumptions. A culture where, in 132 years, I'm the first person of color deemed appropriate for board membership. William nodded slowly. You're absolutely right. And that's why your chairmanship is so crucial. We need someone who will challenge these embedded biases, who will force us to examine our traditions and ask if they serve our values or just our comfort. He extended his hand to Rajiv. On behalf of Elm Ridge Golf Club, I apologize for this appalling welcome. Please, come inside. Your board is waiting. As Rajiv finally entered the building he'd been barred from, Sarah approached William. Mr. Hartford, the Connecticut Journal would like a statement about what just transpired. William looked at the camera, understanding that what he said next would define the club's public response to this moment. Elm Ridge Golf Club is committed to becoming an inclusive institution that reflects the diversity of our community. What happened today was unacceptable and does not represent our values. Marcus Webb has been terminated for discriminatory conduct. We will be implementing comprehensive bias training for all staff and reviewing our membership and employment policies to ensure this never happens again. Sarah nodded, still recording. And Mr. Desai? Would you like to comment? Rajiv paused at the entrance, considering his words carefully. I came here today to assume leadership of this institution. I expected some resistance to change. That's natural. What I didn't expect was to be denied entry based on prejudices that should have been abandoned decades ago. But this moment, as painful as it is, demonstrates exactly why change was necessary. And I intend to use my position to ensure the next person of color who arrives at this entrance is welcomed, not interrogated. The video went viral within hours, over 3 million views by evening. News outlets picked up the story. Civil rights organizations issued statements. And Elm Ridge Golf Club faced a reckoning that forced similar institutions across Connecticut and beyond to examine their own practices. Marcus Webb never worked in private security again, his discrimination captured on video and serving as a cautionary tale in diversity training sessions across the country. And Rajiv Desai led Elm Ridge through the most comprehensive diversity initiative in the club's history, recruiting members from different backgrounds, hiring diverse staff, and transforming what had been an exclusive enclave into a community that actually reflected modern America. Sometimes justice arrived swiftly, caught on camera and broadcast to millions. Sometimes accountability happened in real time, with immediate consequences for those who'd operated too long without oversight. And sometimes the best response to discrimination was to take the power you'd been given and use it to ensure no one else faced the same barriers you did. The board meeting that day was historic, not just because Rajiv became chairman, but because everyone understood they were witnessing the end of one era and the uncomfortable beginning of a better one.